I think from outside Australia, no one rated our chances, and because Australia traditionally don't play too well on the subcontinent, I don't think anyone gave us a chance. But from within, the team was quietly confident. As I said, Alan Border and Bob Simpson took over 2 years earlier as captain and coach, and started to make slow progress. And I suppose the World Cup, that World Cup was a significant turnaround for Australian cricket, and we had young guys come into the team. We had blokes like Mike Valletta, Jeff Marsh, Craig McDermott led from the front with the new ball, Simon O'Donnell as an all-rounder. So we had a pretty good balance in the team, but from outside Australia, no one really knew the players, so no one really rated us that much. But like I said, from within the group, and I wasn't part of the tour, I was just on the fringe, but from within the group at that time, we were very confident that we were going to do well. Just great players playing together. You go through the side, Langer, Hayden, Ponting, Martin, Michael Clarke just came in. You had Steve Waugh, you had Mark Waugh around that time, Adam Gilchrist, Shane Warne, Glenn McGrath, Brett Lee, Andy Bickle, Michael Kasprowicz, Stuart Clark, Jason Gillespie. So when you reel off those names, and the thing that Australia had was plenty in reserve. So if Shane Warne got injured, Stuart McGill would come in. If Brett Lee got injured, Michael Kasprowicz would come in. And we had batsmen that were unlucky not to play more test matches. And Darren Lehman, the current Australian coach, he was probably one of those guys, only played 26 test matches, 26 test matches, but he could have quite easily played 50 or 60 test matches. But the strength of the side, obviously, with those players, we just had out-and-out good players that enjoyed playing together and loved the challenge of international cricket. Why did it go so poorly? Not really sure. In your home conditions, you should do really well. And I think by that stage we were playing pretty good test match cricket, and I think that other teams started to look at us. And Pakistan had a very good side that year with Wasim Akram, Imran Khan, Waqar Yunus, their bowlers. India had a good side. I think we beat India by a couple of runs at Brisbane. So that was a really tight contest. And in those games, you need everything to go right for you. And for us, things just didn't go right. We lost our first game in Auckland to New Zealand. And then I think we lost another game and we're behind the 8 ball a bit. So made it pretty tough going. In the World Cup, you've got to win your early games. So the emphasis in this World Cup for the better teams is to win their early games and set themselves up. There's no doubt there will be pressure on the Australian team, as there will be on the New Zealand team. High expectations. Everyone just expects, because it's in our backyard, we're playing at home, that we're going to do well. But I suppose the concern for Australia at the moment is injuries to both Michael Clarke and Mitchell Marsh. And the teams that will do well in this World Cup are the teams that have a little bit of luck but also have no injuries. So if you've got your best team on the park and playing well, you go a long way to at least making the semi-finals, finals. But with Australia, there's still a little bit of uncertainty. Who's going to captain because of the Michael Clarke injury? And like I said, Mitch Johnson, who is an outstanding all-rounder, very good with both bat and ball in the limited format. If he doesn't play, that puts a little bit of extra pressure on Australia. But I think in Australia, we're expecting the Australians to go well. But the guys that know about one-day cricket and World Cup cricket will understand the pressure on the Australian side, so you don't want to put that added pressure on them. A little bit, if Michael Clarke doesn't play too much of the tri-series against India and England in the lead-up, you go in with a combination of not knowing if he's in form, because he hasn't played, and not knowing whether his body will hold up. And that'll be the same with Mitch Marsh as well. So I think India will be very dangerous in this World Cup because they've played the Test series here, then they're playing the Tri-series in preparation for the World Cup. So they're going to be used to Australian conditions. So Indian cricket have done it really well just preparing for the World Cup. England are going to get a shorter preparation, but a couple of games, and they'll get their team right for the conditions. But of the Australians, you're right there. Our preparation is going to be a little bit hampered because of the, I suppose, concern on Michael Clarke. Well, I wasn't seen too much as a one-day cricketer, probably more test cricketers. And overall, I played for 9.5 years and only played, I think, 33 one-day games. So I wasn't seen as a one-day cricketer, and that's disappointing because when you play, you want to be seen as a good all-round cricketer. And the guys that are seen as that, in my day, it was test cricket and one-day cricket. And in these days, it's blokes like Shane Warne, David Warner, Coley, Dhoni, who are successful at 3 formats. So test match cricket, one-day cricket and 2020. So I look back on the career and yes, it was a little bit disappointing, but at the time, one-day cricket wasn't a real priority for me. Playing test cricket was. I suppose cricket's changed so much now because you don't see the personality of players, and what I hope I brought to the game was a little bit of enjoyment and a little bit of entertainment. And if you do that, what happens these days is if you do that and your performance, so if you're not making runs or taking wickets, you get scrutinised very heavily. Now, 20 years ago, if you weren't making runs or taking wickets, it wasn't a professional sport, and the Australian team wasn't going that well. So we were under less pressure. There's no doubt that the current players in all countries are under more pressure now than players have ever been under. They're scrutinised on and off the ground, and especially the Indian players in India, the Australian players in Australia, the English players in England, because there's so much interest in cricket, unfortunately we scrutinise their performances both on and off the ground. Now, I don't mind scrutinising performances on the ground, but off the ground they've got private lives, let them go. But what happens now, everyone wants to know about their private life, and I think that's very unfair to the players.